So Mario Kart World has been out on the Nintendo Switch 2 for about a week-ish at the time of recording this review, and I want to give you guys my honest thoughts, my honest review of this game, because it's an ambitious take on the Mario Kart series that really shakes things up. It really does something a lot different, and it's in the name, Mario Kart World. We have this big open world for the first time ever that we can just kind of explore. Everything's kind of interconnected. It's this huge map, open world map, and it's just a lot of fun. So I'm gonna give you guys my honest thoughts. At the end of the day, remember, reviews and things like this are always subjective. My thoughts are not gonna be someone else's thoughts and vice versa. I might love something, someone else might hate something, and vice versa, right? So keep that in mind as we go ahead and jump into this. Okay, so Mario Kart World offers a lot of stuff. Let's start with the free roam, because I think that's kind of the biggest thing to mention. It's in the name, World, right? Mario Kart World. So like I said, in Mario Kart World, you have this free roam ability where you can just kind of explore this massive map. Now, what people were worried about is, hey, is there going to be enough to do in this world? Is it going to feel alive enough? I think so. It's fun to just kind of explore around. It'd be nice if there was a little bit more to do, I would say. But for the most part, it's nice. I mean, you just kind of driving around. Sometimes you'll see, like, I mean, there's a bunch of just kind of normal cars, not like actual carts, but like cars driving on the street. You know, there's a bunch of different things kind of going on. You'll see like Yoshi's just kind of hanging out sometimes in an area. You'll see like maybe like a toad kayaking in a stream, like up a stream or up a river or whatever. It's just little weird things that just make the whole world kind of feel more alive, if you will. And it's kind of cool, a little, you know, attention to detail, if you will. But beyond that, in the free roam, besides just exploring the maps, which is really nice because you can go ahead, you can see all of like the in-between stuff, all of the outside of the tracks and whatnot, but you can go to the track locations and explore, hey, you know, how do I find different shortcuts, right? And so when you actually race on these tracks, you're like, oh, I remember finding this in free roam. I can do this, I can do that, and there's like these shortcuts and stuff. There's new mechanics, which we'll talk about in a second, that you can kind of chain together, like rail riding and wall riding and all this different stuff. And so you can discover that in free roam, but there's also three things that they've added: P-switches, question mark panels, and Peach medallions. So for P-switches, at the time of recording this, we don't even know how many there are, but people have reported well over 200 of these P-switches, and they still have not reached the end of it. Basically, when you activate a P-switch, there's all these different kind of challenges that range from pretty easy to pretty challenging. It could be stuff like, you know, collect 8 blue coins, for example, right? And it sounds simple, but it could be like, oh, you got to collect these coins by chaining all these different kind of like rail grinds and wall rides that I mentioned a second ago. And, you know, other ones could be like, you know, engage in this sort of, you know, NPC race, and there's no positions in this race. It's just kind of like do 3 laps before the time limit runs out. And so if you get hit with, like, you know, items from these NPCs, that's going to slow you down, stuff like that, right? Or, you know, a bunch of different stuff, like, you know, bounce up to the top of whatever, this location, or ride this vine to get to this location, like, you know, whatever, avoid all of these enemies as you get from point A to point B. Bunch of different stuff like that. So they're pretty fun. I've been having a lot of fun with them, and apparently there's a lot. Now, my gripe is that there's no way to track which ones you've completed. They don't show on the map or anything like that, so it's kind of difficult to track, like, okay, well, which ones am I missing, especially for people who are completionists. And that part, I think, is extremely annoying, and I wish they would have added that, and hopefully they'll add it as a free update later. The question mark panels, a little bit different. These are only found, so the P switches are found anywhere in the, you know, in the actual tracks, around the tracks, anywhere in the open world. The question mark panels are found specifically in each track. There's 5 for each track, except Crown City, which has like 10 for some reason. And basically what these are, they're way easier to track because of that. And you're going to basically get a sticker when you activate one. And there's about, I think, 150 in the game total. So yeah, you get these stickers, which we'll talk about in a second what stickers are. But those, they're not they're not as fun as the P-switches, but they're cool. And then finally we have Peach medallions, which they're just kind of like collectibles, I guess. It would be like, you'll see a Peach medallion maybe in a hard to reach location. You'll be like, okay, how do I figure out how to get to that location? So it's kind of like a puzzle to solve, right? To figure out, how do I get that Peach medallion in that location? And we don't know what we get for collecting all the Peach medallions or all the P-switches or all three of these different things, categories. Hopefully there's some secret rewards. We don't know, and even if there were, I wouldn't spoil what the rewards were in this video. So while we're actually in free roam, I want to mention that there is now photo mode, which is really, really nice. So you can actually go in, you can change the pose, the expression of your actual, character. You can change the focus if you want to kind of blur out the background a little bit and just kind of focus in on the character itself. All these different kind of cool things. You can tilt the camera, you can kind of zoom in, zoom out, and then take your screenshot. So really nice little feature there that they've added as well. All right, let's get out of free roam and talk about what I just mentioned, which are stickers. I know it doesn't really sound like it matters, and it really doesn't, but stickers are basically like achievements in a way. So stickers are going to be like, oh, you cleared a mission, P-switch mission, or, you activated, one of these question mark panels, or you glided for 90 kilometers total. So that's kind of what they are, and then you could stick, one sticker, only one sticker on a cart at a time, and it's kind of hard to see. I would have liked to see it if it was like a little bit different, where it's like, maybe you had a profile sort of like Splatoon with, where you have like a banner and like an emblem and stuff that you can show off and showcase. I think that kind of profile sort of thing would have worked a lot better than this. This is just kind of like, most people don't really care about the stickers because you can't really see them that well on the cart anyways. And when you're racing, you're not going to really see them. If you could stick them all over your cart, maybe they'd be a little bit different. But again, it's just kind of like one. You can only stick one on your cart, and that's it. But it's a cool way to kind of track sort of achievements, if you will. But that brings me to my first gripe with the game. And that being that there is no kind of like, profile or statistics, category, if you will, right? There's no place to go check, how many coins have I collected? How much have I, drifted, or how many tricks have I done, or whatever. The only way to track that is through, milestones based on the stickers. And even then, the stickers organization is a little bit messy, and there's so many stickers that it's really hard to kind of, keep track of it all. So I would have liked to see sort of like, again, like a profile, right? Where you can go see, how many races have I raced? How many races have I won, lost, whatever? How many gold cups, silver cups, bronze cups? I mean, that's a huge miss, in my opinion, that, for a game so ambitious, you would think they would have thought about adding something like that, and they didn't. So that's I think my biggest gripe is there's no way to track all that, and there is no such thing as that. Okay, moving on from that, let's talk about some game modes and stuff as well. But before we get into the game modes, we have to talk about the new mechanics. So of course, there's some brand new mechanics from, like I said, the rail riding. Rail riding could be like, there's a rail kind of like, at the bottom, and it kind of goes up to a higher ledge. You can just jump into it, or it could be like just a side rail on a street that, maybe there's kind of like a little slope where you can get onto it from the beginning, or maybe there's like a ramp you could jump off of to get onto it, or you can now jump. So if you're not moving the left stick anywhere, you just kind of like leave it stationary, and then you push the ZR button, you can kind of charge up a jump and then jump up. And so that's a way to kind of jump onto rails as well, and different things like that, which is nice. And then there's wall riding, where you can kind of, if you can jump onto. So again, you either charge a jump or use the feather item, and then jump towards wall. You can wall ride, or if you're coming off of a rail and you push ZR to jump off the rail, you can jump onto a wall like that. And so you can chain a bunch of different things like that. And people are already discovering all kinds of crazy ways and shortcuts to kind of get around some of these tracks. And I think there's a lot more depth to this game than a lot of people realize because of these, new mechanics that are introduced in this game. Items, like I said, there's a lot of new items. Not going to go through all of that. We did cover that, pre-launch in a different video. But the feathers being one of them. One of them is going to lead into one of the other categories I want to talk about, which is, characters, and that is comic. Instead of comic being, an actual playable character, comic is now an item. And the item works by if someone behind you uses it, all the people in front of you turn into that character. It's an NPC character usually, right? It could be like Dolphin or Pianta or whatever, Snowman or whatever. And then there's like certain things that happen on the map that kind of create obstacles related to that kind of, specific comic ability. Depending on what map you're racing on is going to depend what happens. If you're in like a snowy region, for example, you'll probably turn into Snowman, and there'll be some kind of snowman kind of event that happens on the track, obstacle, if you will. And that's kind of how that works. Unfortunately, though, that is the only way to unlock these NPC characters. There are a bunch of characters in the game. There are 24 main characters and a bunch of NPC characters, like I said, Pianta and Dolphin, Snowman, and Goomba, and things like that. Some of them are unlocked by default, but there's like probably, off the top of my head, I don't know, I didn't count. I think like maybe 12 or more, roughly, that you have to unlock through this comic ability, which, again, it's dependent on which track that you're actually on, right? So it's a little bit RNG, so it's a little annoying to unlock all those NPC characters that way. But anyways, there's 24 main characters. You know, main characters would be like Mario, Peach, Luigi, you know, so on and so forth. Most of them are unlocked from the gate. Some of them are unlocked through doing the actual Grand Prix themselves. Whether you win or lose, you unlock them after you do the Grand Prix for the first time. And then for each of these 24 main characters, there's a new food item in the game, and that introduces the ability to unlock outfits. And the food also, when you activate it, it also gives you a little speed boost. So even if you have all the outfits, it's still worth doing, you know, or getting the items just for those speed boosts within, you know, races and stuff. But anyways, yeah, 127 different outfits across all the different characters. Some characters have more outfits than others, and again, they're unlocked through that method, which adds a little bit of, you know, different variety to the game, to the 24 main characters that there actually, you know, are in the game. Okay, so there's already a lot that we've talked about, but there's a few more things I want to talk about. Of course, there's single player, multiplayer, online play, wireless play. You can actually do a little thing. I think you push LR and you click on the left stick, if I remember correctly, to change wireless play to LAN play. So you could have LAN parties, things like that if you want to do that. Let's talk about single player really quick, which also would kind of go into the other modes as well, multiplayer and all that, which is Grand Prix, Knockout Tour, Time Trials, versus Races, and Battle Mode are the game modes in this game. Grand Prix, essentially the way it works, kind of like most Grand Prix in previous games, there's 7 Grand Prix. Once you've completed these, you know, with gold or whatever, you can unlock the Special Cup, so there's 8 Grand Prix total, each one having 4 tracks, and these are really, really cool because all these different maps, some of them are remade, some of them are brand new maps, some of them are old maps, like, you know, Wario Stadium, just for one example, and they're remade. So what that means is they're very familiar, but they also feel completely new and completely fresh, and so they've done a really good job at just remaking these and not just feeling like they're just a one-for-one from the classics. The way Grand Prix works now is you typically will start from one track, and then you'll do 3 laps. You'll do that, you know, standard race, but then going from this into the second race, you're basically racing from track 1 to the you know, second track, and the first 2 laps are essentially that in between, and then you do 1 lap at the second course once you get there, and then that's the end of the race. You don't do like a full three laps on second, third, and fourth courses, unfortunately, but you could in the settings, if you want to do that classic mode, if you're doing kind of like a versus race style of it, that there is a way to do that. But that's how Grand Prix work now. So again, you're driving that kind of in-between stuff. And again, the courses are fantastic. They all offer different environments with different obstacles, and just, you know, each one is just a joy to play, and kind of, you know, learn all the different mechanics and shortcuts. There's again, a lot more depth to this game than I think a lot of people realize. And I'm not going to spoil this, but of course, every Mario Kart has a Rainbow Road. I just want to say that you are going to be well pleased with this Rainbow Road. They did a fantastic job. It is one of those jaw-dropping moments where you're just in awe of how amazing it is. So again, I'm not going to show it off, I'm not going to spoil it, but I wanted to put that in here, that even the maps that are typically show up in different Mario Kart games, it's crazy how they've done it. So you'll see when you get there. Now, before we go to the next game mode, I do want to mention carts, because I forgot to mention about carts. There are 40 different carts in the game. Some of them are unlocked through just collecting coins. I think every 100 coins you unlock a cart, up until 3,000 coins. And that's pretty much how that works. The different carts will have different stats based on, you know, what character you're using. So like speed, acceleration, weight, and handling. But beyond that, I mean, there's no customizing the individual parts like in Mario Kart 8. It's just kind of choose your character, choose your cart, check the different stats and how the combinations work, and that's pretty much that. Then we get the Knockout Tour. Knockout Tour is a brand new game mode which introduces a new way of playing, that you're basically traveling from one track to the next, which connects 6 different tracks. And this is really cool because basically you start on one track, you go to the next, and there's checkpoints at each one. And so in this game, I forgot to mention this, I told you there's too much in this game. There's 24 players in this game, whether it's Grand Prix versus, whether it's, you know, Knockout Tour. There's 24 instead of 12 racers now. And so the way Knockout Tour works is you start with 24, and only the top 20 that get through the first checkpoint first are going to advance, and then, you know, the bottom 4 are knocked out essentially, and then it kind of dwindles down till you get to the top 4 for the last kind of, you know, the last segment, if you will. And this is really cool because essentially, if you think about it, this is kind of Nintendo's Mario Kart version of like a battle royale in a weird way, because it's a process of elimination, and it's just a lot of fun. It's a lot of chaos, and again, with 24 players, Grand Prix is more hectic. Knockout Tour for some reason is even more hectic. But then you get to online, and online is even crazier. We're going to talk about that in a second. You have time trials. You can race against ghosts, race on different tracks. Kind of self-explanatory. Not going to go too much into time trials. Versus race, again, you can kind of, race using customized rules, create your own Grand Prix. Kind of like what you're used to in previous Mario Karts. And then you got battle mode, which is really fun. I'm really glad this one's returning. I'm a huge fan. Been a fan since the Super Mario Kart days on the Super NES way back years ago. We have Balloon Battle and Coin Rush. So only two modes as of right now. Hopefully they'll add some more as maybe like free updates or something in the future. It would be nice to see at least that there would have been like maybe a third one, but I'm not going to complain because at the end of the day, I really do enjoy battle mode, and Balloon Battle and Coin Rush I think are the two favorites people have probably, but it'd be nice to see them add more in the future. But yeah, these work fantastic. Bigger lobbies, of course, with more players. The maps are a little bit bigger as well. Sometimes some of the maps felt a smidge too big. Like sometimes it felt like I was driving a little too long without seeing someone, but it's not really a huge gripe. I don't even know if you can call it a gripe. But yeah, battle, it's a lot of fun, as you would expect. Then we get into online play. Again, multiplayer. Typical, you can have up to 4 players on a console. Wireless play, right? You can play 2 players on a console and then wirelessly connect to another console via wireless play. They can have 2 players and so on and so forth. But online play is hectic. You have all these different game modes like I just mentioned in online play. Whether you're playing with friends, by the way, or you're just playing against random people, you're going to basically be able to explore the open world and free roam while you're waiting to load into a game. And then when the game starts, you're going to basically get into the game. So it's really nice that you can kind of cruise around in that sort of in-between section. But it's chaos. I mentioned 24 players. It's bad. I don't mean bad in that way, but it's hectic enough rather. When you're playing against CPUs, you play this against real players that actually have brains and can think for themselves. It's crazy. The utter chaos. It's a lot of fun. It's pretty frustrating at times, but it is a lot of fun, and I could not recommend it more. Online play works very smooth. The servers are very good. I had a lot of fun with it, and I don't really have anything to complain about. From my experience, personally speaking, it worked very, very well. Wow. Okay, so I don't know if there's much more to say besides the soundtrack, which is an important thing to say. They basically remixed a bunch of other kind of, Mario soundtracks, from previous games. They remixed all these different tracks from your favorite Mario games, Mario Karts even, different things like that. And they implemented them in this game for one of the greatest Mario Kart soundtracks of all time, I would argue. There's some other franchises. I think I've heard some Donkey Kong stuff in here as well, but it's primarily like 95% Mario music. So you'll hear music from like, Mario Galaxy, Super Mario Galaxy, Super Mario World, Super Mario Sunshine, whatever it is, right? All the different Mario games, Paper Mario's and Yoshi's Island, Yoshi's Story, and whatever else you can imagine. Soundtrack is amazing. It is so, so good. Like probably like a 10 out of 10 just for the soundtrack. Honestly, it's so good. And then of course, graphically, it works great. It looks great. It's beautiful. It's vibrant. It's colorful. It's vivid. It looks great graphically. 4K, obviously in the Nintendo Switch 2 for the first time ever. First Mario Kart ever in 4K. The frame rate runs, buttery smooth from my experience. It all works very, very well. Okay, so that was a lot to cover. I hope I didn't miss anything. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. But what would I rate Mario Kart World? Now, I do have some gripes with it. Like I said, there's no way to track the P switches. There's some stuff, some gripes I have with the open world in that sense. Statistics, no way to track that. A couple different things here and there that I'm like, it just feels missing. So I would like to give it a higher score, and I'm considering giving it a lower score, even just slightly lower. But the game is really good. It's a lot of fun. If you own a Nintendo Switch 2 at any point, this is one of those must-have games, kind of like Mario Kart 8 Deluxe was on the Nintendo Switch 1. And so I would give this game a solid 9 out of 10. It is an absolute joy. It is so much fun. It's ambitious. It changes the formula. There's a bunch of new things to kind of do in this game. Knockout Tour is a lot of fun. New game modes, new mechanics, free roam, like I said, stuff to do there. Big interconnected open world. It's just a joy. I hope to see some free updates in the future that adds some more kind of quality of life improvements. Like I mentioned, a way to track the P switches, maybe a better way to track your statistics, different things like that would be nice. But overall, it's a really good game. Like I said, for Nintendo Switch 2 owners, it's one of those must-have games. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. This has been an extremely long review. I apologize, but I wanted to be as thorough as possible. If you appreciate that, leave a like, subscribe for more. Until the next one, game on. I'll see you guys later.